Welcome back to the Inspired series, where we have conversations with inspirational individuals based on their careers or their personal habits, or whatever it is that they do. Definitely inspires us. And today I'm very excited to have my dear friend Biren Gandhi on with us. Now, I have a whole script of how to describe him, but I know the details of this will come out in our conversation. So, Biren, thanks for joining us on Inspired.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
So, out of curiosity, how'd you get inspired to say yes to this conversation today?
Well, it's like sharing is caring, right? So we just need to share to the world whatever we know the best. So this is one way of sharing the greatness, what we have all learned from our forefathers and ancient scriptures and all. So
So you actually live on the West Coast, right? San Jose?
it's San Jose, California. That's right.
And how long have you lived there?
25 years now.
Oh wow, long time. So
Yes,
you've seen Silicon Valley become what Silicon Valley is.
kind of. Yeah, both ups and downs, actually.
So Baron Bay is actually an entrepreneur. He used to work in tech in the past. So do you mind telling us a little bit about your journey in tech and then what led you to take this leap of faith into entrepreneurship several years ago?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, very briefly, won't bore you with all the details, but I was like fortunate to participate and work with some category creating ideas, right? I mean, that's what they call it in Silicon Valley, something that defines new categories from scratch. And then later on, many more companies thrive and strive on those categories. So I mean, obviously, the first one was in the social networking era. I was fortunate to be part of Facebook when Meta was known as Facebook back in 2005-6 timeframe, less than 200 people. It was an awesome experience that created the whole social networking phenomenon. I was primarily working on the mobile side of Facebook before iPhone was announced, before the whole app-centric economy actually was born. So it was a great experience. And then later on, I worked with Zynga on social gaming aspect of it, all the gamifications and rewards driven mindset and economy. So the social gaming was another category I was fortunate and humbled to be part of. And then moving on in Cisco's timeframe, the whole Internet of Things, all the connected devices, people, process, data, things, all the four elements of connected devices. So I was humbled to be part of that ecosystem at the very beginning, infancy, the inception of that ecosystem as well. And afterwards, later in the Cisco's journey, I was part of mergers and acquisitions division, the corporate innovation program. So where I was leading the commercial drone, the whole initiative for commercial drones, working with NASA, Lockheed Martin, FAA, and Googles and Amazons of the world back then. And other aspect was acquiring, investing into startups, evaluating them based on their merits, technology, IP, and all that. And the third part was promoting internal innovation, employees driven innovation within Cisco, not just hackathons and like small mundane things, but more of a proper startup VC funding like program, which lasted 6 months in length. So that was internal innovation challenge. And as part of all this journey, basically, I was always fascinated by the connected devices, robots, drones, but the control mechanism was a little bit ugly, like still using the joysticks or phones, like looking down and controlling things upward. So that's when, like I said, hey, if there was an intuitive way, voice-driven way of controlling those birds in the air or robots on the ground or elsewhere, that's much nicer. So that's where the whole my startup idea, the leap of faith for my startup, Speak to IoT, that came into existence. It's controlling using the voice, artificial intelligence, all these various connected devices, whether they're drones, robots, or any other like light switches and fans and ACs and any other household devices as well. So interesting journey overall.
So just out of curiosity, Amazon has Alexa, Apple has Siri. So
Right.
for your device, would it be like, "Hey Biden, go turn the lights off"?
No, not that way. So we believe in like riding on the shoulders of the giants, right? Not reinventing the wheel if it's not needed, right? So we leverage Alexa's and Google's and Siri's technologies for the voice part. But on the backside, we can integrate with any connected device, like so your surgical equipment, for example, if it is internet connected, internet enabled, that could be voice operated in the medical domain. So that kind of thing we provide. It's a patented solution. So we basically walk our way through.
So obviously you're focusing on voice, and some of the companies you mentioned had really good mission statements when they started, like connecting
Mhm.
the world and like getting people to play games together and engage together. But obviously, some of that has changed over the years, and
Mhm.
some say these things have become distractions. Like when you were starting off, like, did you know that it could become what it is?
That's never true. Basically, I mean, if we roll back 2005 when I was building part of Facebook, I did not know what social networking is going to do 20 years down the road, right? I mean, today we are seeing both positive and negative effects of that technology. Same thing goes with social networking, social gamification, social interactions, all the Instagrams of the world and all that. Same thing goes for Internet of Things, all the connected devices, lack of security, all those things. So when we are in the middle of things, in the midst of things, right now the AI, Gen AI is that kind of the big beast that we are in the middle of it. We are riding that wave right now. So nobody knows. It's very difficult to predict the end game where it would lead. But as long as we make the right choices and right decisions along the way, the small steps, small footsteps, hopefully that would eventually lead us in the right direction in kind of navigating the technology.
So, what voices kind of were in your mind? You have technology that you're working on that's voice driven. You mentioned voices a few times. What voices throughout your career kind of guided you? Because you've done a lot. You've stayed in the tech space, even now with your entrepreneur spirit. But what are some of the voices that influence you? And were there any negative voices that were like always like naysayers, like, no, don't do this or that's too risky?
Well, I mean, it's always life is a mixed bag, right? So whenever we say something extraordinary, something non-conventional, there are going to be like split personalities. Some people say, "Oh, that cannot be done because we've always done it this way," and some people are going to be like blatant supporters, even though they don't know, but because they believe in you, not necessarily what you're trying to achieve, right? So you are going to have a mixed bag, like both kind of people. But I think based on the ancient compass we have been blessed with by our spiritual forefathers and that alignment, the bearing, we remain balanced, like on the way, the middle ground, basically. Like not, don't go into the extremes, like don't take up things on their face value. There's always like a next level and further dig down deeper into the proof is in the pudding. So always go through that and always seek for guidance, for inspiration. And fortunately for me, my guru Mahant Swami Maharaj, like that has been the constant source of guidance, inspiration, and support throughout my life. So whenever like in doubt, whenever these naysayers or whenever something clouds my judgment or I find no way, I could always write to him, get his consult, ask him, call him, and he would provide the necessary guidance for me to move forward.
How do you mold yourself when you go from different companies or different projects? And how do you work well with a team? And how do you gauge like what these individuals are and what their personalities are?
So, I mean, one thing, I mean, we all in a way work that way, but sometimes it's better to explicitly call it out. I mean, we can't change anybody, right? I mean, in the world, the only individual we can change is ourselves. So whatever environment we go into, it's always understanding how people already work, how all the cultural ecosystem, the fabric is actually coming together, and trying to fit ourselves into that environment and learning the best. Basically, it's like whatever the good you are carrying forward, trying to implement bits and pieces of that if it makes sense, and at the same time learning the good parts of the existing environment into your life as well. So I mean, nobody should be walking in with this egoistic mindset that, hey, I know I've done that before, and like, okay, I'm going to teach you everybody here and implement this all good things 1 2 and 3. That doesn't work. That hardly ever works. Instead, it's a two-way street. So the exchange of the information has to be meaningful. It's first learning and then sharing your learning as well in turn. So it's more of a being humble, being open ended, open to learning, assuming that yes, there are things in the world which I don't know, and it's fine. It's perfectly fine, but I can pick up, I can learn. So having that open mindset, that's what helps in the most environments, because environments change, people change, technologies change, everything around us. It's highly adaptable in nature, and we don't know what will be thrown into, but having those like basics very solid, that helps along the way.
Sharing knowledge is very important. And you actually are an author. You've
Yep.
published several books. And interestingly, when I was preparing for this interview, you mentioned you had written a book. Little did I know that this is on my wife's desk, and she's actually been reading Traditions of Time. And I said, oh, I know that author. I'm talking to him today.
Oh, thank you.
Before we get to the book, like, how do you get inspired to write? I've always wanted to write. I've always wanted to like journal. but I just feel like I don't have the mental focus, or I feel like I don't have anything to share that's of value to others. And you've done it a few times here. So how did you get inspired to like sit down and actually write and publish books?
I mean, it's a collection of few things, right? It's not just one thing ever, right? I mean, so while growing up, I had this intention and I had this habit of studying the ancient scriptures of Hinduism, Sanatan Dharma, the Ved, Upanishad, the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and even BAPS Swaminarayan scriptures as well, Vachanamrut in particular. So connecting the dots from those, it's always like I was always fascinated that wow, this is beyond spirituality. This is not only limited to that particular spectrum of life. It can be applied to many different things, our day-to-day lives as well as the corporate world. So that fascination of connecting the dot, that was kind of the first thing. Second thing, the key milestone I consider is my guru Mahant Swami Maharaj. He wrote me a letter when I was migrating to US in late 90s, I think 1998. So he wrote me a letter of blessings, and in that he had particularly mentioned "Kaik navu kari dekhadvu sanshodhan." So always have an innovative, inquisitive approach and a research oriented, observing kind of a mindset. So with his blessings, I always try to find things like how to make those connections in where things are not obvious, where things are seemingly not connected. And that kind of motivated me to find these connections along the way. And the third element of that puzzle was my two earlier books, as you mentioned. Like first one, it created a nice journey, nice arc from thinking perspective. So first one was purely based on management principles. Second one was the mix of management and the human behavior paradoxes, basically the counter logic compass. How to understand and map out those paradoxes, like seemingly contradictory things that we encounter in life, into our personal life, into our corporate life, entrepreneurial life, wherever. So that created more of a management to paradoxical to the third one, which is kind of the traditions of time, the final book, which we are going to talk about soon,
Hopefully not
which
your
is this.
final book. Hopefully not final
Well,
book.
the final meaning so
In the
far, yes.
trilogy, in the series.
That's right. It's correct. But I mean, it's more of a natural progression. It's a journey, as you can imagine, right? So,
Yeah.
but so thoughts basically to the guidance from the guru and basically having that concrete milestones along the way.
In the
Mhm.
industries that you and I work with every day, it's more based on technology and science. So sometimes it can be a little hard to incorporate your traditions and spirituality. I haven't had a chance to read the whole book, but I've browsed through it because it's just arrived 2 days ago. But it seems like you do a really good job kind of mixing a lot of concept. So do you
Mhm.
mind telling us like some of the basic, concepts that you have in the book that are inspiring and that should someone should imbibe into their daily day rituals and traditions?
I mean, sure, yeah. So I think the core concept starts of progressing from inner harmony, basically being one with yourself, like being at ease, at peace with oneself, all the way to universal and perpetual harmony. Like ultimately, everybody wants the same thing. How do we achieve that universal peace, universal harmony, which lasts beyond our own lifespans, right? So, how do we get there? How do we move on this journey? So, one of the ways, what I found fascinating again during my previous studies is the Hinduism is the ancient civilization, right? One of the most ancient civilizations that is still surviving today and thriving today. What is the root cause of its survival? And when I look back, it's like all these traditions, seemingly very simple day to day life, common man can understand, but every single tradition or ritual, it had a deep scientific meaning behind it and rationalization, some kind of a justification of why we should do certain things or why we should not do certain things. So I started compiling all those things, all those incidents, and to give you a few examples, like namaste, for example, right? I mean, people use it as a casual greeting, the namaste, but when you go deeper into its meaning, the whole world actually experienced this Namaste doctrine during this COVID pandemic. According to United Nations, more than 70 countries, 73 actually to be precise, they adopted this as a formal way of greeting in a touchless hygienic greeting. I mean, being a doctor, you can obviously relate that the germs spread by various means, and having this touchless greeting is very simple way of physically distancing distance from the spreading of the diseases, right? So very simple habit. It's a greeting, but deeply scientific in nature. And not just scientific, it has a other dimension as well, more of a spiritual dimension as well. The meaning behind these words, namaste, meaning you are actually saluting, you are bowing down to the divine within the other individual. So it kind of builds a sense of respect from the get go. It's like
You know
you're
what's
not
interesting? You know what's interesting, Biren is like I used to always shake my patients' hands, and
Mhm.
then when COVID happened, I went to like fist bump and then elbow bump, and I was so shy
Hmm.
to do namaste because on social media, which we talked about earlier, they said, "Oh, now everyone wants." There was some meme, a joke that, "Oh, now everyone wants to be Indian because now everyone's bowing down." What are these traditions? And I just got extremely insecure.
Hmm.
But halfway through, I'm just gonna start doing it, and patients loved it. Like they're like, "Oh, look, it's sign of respect." Like I love it
Er,
because they felt like disconnected when I stopped doing anything because of
exa-
COVID. But
right.
they still felt connected. They would actually do namaste back to me because they understood that universal symbol. So it was really interesting that it was in my mind something that we should do to engage patients. I was not able to do because I was like, I wanted to continue hide my identity.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's right on. I mean, we are human beings, so we need some kind of a ice breaking process, some ritual, right? So whether it's a handshake or some other way, fist bump or or elbow bump, and but I think Namaste has survived so many years, so many millennia, and it gives this deeper meaning. So in a corporate setup, it kind of levels everyone out. Like you're not considering anybody below you. You're always respecting people, whether they are patients in your scenario, or whether they are clients, or whether they are customers, or anybody. So I think that equal footage is one thing. Same way, like fasting tradition, for example, right? So 2016 Nobel Prize was awarded to this Japanese scientist, and the phenomenon they observed and proved was the autophagy, right? I mean, it's like the body's mechanism of killing the dead cells by fasting. So when you starve our human body, it basically cleanses itself and rebuilds the immune system, including stem cells. So that fascinating research earned Nobel Prize in 2016, very recently, like 9 years back. But the fasting tradition has been there in the Sanatan Dharma for millennia. And people fast during for various reasons, like Ekadashi, for example, or during eclipses or during specific time frames, like 4 months, right? A variety of fasts. So fasting tradition is another such thing which is like deeply scientific and meaningful. At the same time, very simple to follow. I mean, somebody wants to follow, they don't need to know all those like scientific aspects of it. Like they don't want to bore themselves, they can still continue to follow and still be the beneficiary of that particular tradition.
You know what's
Festivals, right?
interesting is,
Yeah,
sorry not to cut you up, but you mentioned like they don't want to know the scientific aspect. There's certain people that don't want to know the spiritual aspect, but
true.
both are essentially telling you to do the same thing.
Exactly, exactly. Right on. Yeah. So, I mean, we can pick and choose whatever we are aligning to, and that's fine. As long as we are benefiting and working towards the greater good, it's all good.
So, what's your favorite chapter in the book?
Oh, that's a tough call, actually. I won't be able to answer like favorite chapter, but I mean, personally, I go back again and again to section 5 at the last part of the book, where it has two chapters. Basically, one is on the karma and rebirth, and the cycles of birth and death that we all go through according to Sanatan Dharma philosophy. And the second one is on the spiritual guides, guru, mentor, the living scriptures, basically. So the way it helps me personally is it gives like both the extremes. So one side, it's larger than life perspective. So beyond this current lifespan, beyond this current human journey that we are all on, the journey of the deeper meaning, the deeper self, the soul is much more longer. And sometimes it's we get trapped into insignificant things into the current life, but when you have this big picture, those things start to matter less and less. So you remain calm and peaceful at ease in various situations, whether it's a joy or sorrow, whatever the scenario may be. And but having that along the journey, having that the concept of a guru, living guru particularly, or mentor by your side as a participant, as an observer, as a guide, as someone holding your hand constantly and making sure you are doing all the right choices, you are making all the right choices along the way. And even if you stumble, yes, he shows you the alternative path along the way. So having that peace of mind that, hey, there is somebody protecting me, somebody is always with me, that gives another level of peace internally. So, I mean, those two chapters of having this like universal phenomenon of journey of a soul beyond the current body and having a living guru present in your life along by on this journey. I mean, those two things together give tremendous peace and ease to me time and time again.
So, how does a serial entrepreneur reach a state of universal harmony when the whole goal is to build a product, sell it fast, and then build the next product and sell it fast, build the next product and sell it fast? There's like all these like dopamine rushes that come, with everything. How does someone like that like incorporate what you have written here based on your experience into their life? Like, can they really have that peace and calm while they still have the daily hustle of what they do in business?
Absolutely. I mean, if your goal is clear, right? I mean, the purpose of money or purpose of wealth. I mean, none of the Indian scriptures say, "Oh, don't acquire wealth." No, it's okay to
You
acquire
can still
wealth,
have your
and
nice cars.
yeah, exactly. It's perfectly fine. But having what is the purpose of anything you acquire? What is the end goal? I think that begin with the end mindset that needs to be clear in whatever pursuits we follow in our lives, right? So whether you're an entrepreneur chasing after like startup after startup after startup, that is one thing. But okay, what is the end goal? If the end goal is to just indulge yourself into this like lavish things, maybe that will not give you lasting peace. But the end goal is, yes, I'm going to enjoy a little bit. At the same time, going to do good for rest of the world as well. I'm going to donate to my charitable causes or favorite things, whatever your personal cause is. Like you are trying to do good for the world as well, then you have some purpose. So having that clarity of purpose resolves a lot of questions. Otherwise, it becomes just like the famous saying I keep on telling in Silicon Valley, they call it like in the rat race of Silicon Valley, even if you win the race, you're still a rat. Most of the people, they just without purpose or meaning towards the life, right? It's they keep on going from one thing to another, new shiny thing, a new lavish thing. But one needs to sit down and recalibrate ourselves on like, okay, what is the real thing I'm chasing here? Is it purely just the material wealth, a sense of purpose, a sense of doing something good for the community, making best use of this human body, the intellect, whatever I've been blessed with? What is my legacy I'm leaving behind? Like, is this only the like, okay, eat, drink, and be merry? Is that the purpose of life, or it's something beyond? So clarity of purpose is absolutely essential in whatever we strive to do.
So, where in your purpose is your family? I know you have two children.
Hmm.
I know you have a family. And when we were doing our prep call, you were, telling me you were running around doing this with one and this with the other. How important or significant is your family in your day to day?
Oh, it's absolutely. I mean, it's that's the cornerstone of any societal system. Even whether you want to do worldly pursuits or spiritual pursuits on both the sides, having the strong family support is absolutely essential. Without that, one cannot even make progress on any dimensions, because if your mind is not calm, mind is not happy, mind is not stable, not having that uniform purpose driven mentality, you cannot achieve anything in life. So having that supportive family is absolutely must. And it's not going to be like, we should not assume it's going to be there forever, right? So it's like we have to nurture that. We nurture the good value systems while kids are growing up. We need to create time for that. We need to basically allocate and have that self discipline that yes, this is also a very big priority for me. I mean, yes, along with other five things I'm doing, kids and family, that is also an equally, if not more important in life for me, because that's what our long term support system is. All the worldly things, they are going to be faded away eventually. So that calibration has to be there. And especially with kids, I mean, it's like, yes, all parents can have really long stories about like what to do, what not to do, and none of them is going to be perfect because it's constantly evolving. But having that family support is really key in whatever we are trying to achieve.
And I think it's great that you said like, they are there for you in the future. I remember one of the first patients I saw in the hospital was all alone and he was in
Mm.
hospice. Like it was his last few days. And, I was doing what I needed to do for him. But he's like, "Doc," I didn't really ask for advice, but he wanted to give me advice. So his doc, like I have millions of dollars in the bank, but one thing I regret is not spending time with my family. He said, "It's 10 p.m. You're here. Go home and hang out with your family because you don't want to be like me alone in
Yep.
your last days." And it was like almost like an epiphany. Like like as if like God was speaking me to me through him.
Right.
And since then, it's been like almost like a light bulb went off. Like, whoa, like I don't want to be that guy.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's and again, we know like Harvard's this longest study in the history of Harvard, right? The longevity study. The biggest outcome of that is like the root cause for happiness for human beings is like being surrounded by loved ones. That's all. No money, no wealth, no other assets, nothing else gives that happiness as much as being surrounded by the loved ones. And in fact, in my personal career, I had to leave one job particularly because I wanted to be with my family when my second son was born. So just the commute was like killing. So I had to leave that job just because to be in time at home to be with my son, right? And participate while he's growing up, right? So otherwise, like, yes, it's always like a give and take, the compromises we have to do.
Yeah. All right. We're in rapid fire questions. Okay.
Sure.
What's your favorite food? And you can't say none of it because you see all taste as one and you're perfect. But there must be something that tempts you.
Yeah. So I'll have multiple answer, obviously, right? And
You
not,
only one answer. Rapid fire.
one is tough, man. I have both sides. Basically, so for food, for example, like I love pani puri as well as pizza, both of them equally
Yeah.
well, right?
For me, I don't know why it always the word gulab jamu comes up because
Yeah, pani puri is my
it's, you know,
pani puri is
savory. All right, book. So it can't be your book. What's a book that you like to read or your favorite book?
one of the aha moment inspiring book for me was Simon Sinek's Start with Why, because that's where it gives like
Is
the
that the one
real
with the
purpose.
circles? Yeah.
Yes, they're concentrating why, what, and then how, right? It's that's like a really nice concept. And on the spiritual side, Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Vachanamruts, like so, these three books overall, basically, it kind of made the core of who I am today, and it's constantly inspiring me.
So why, what, and how? So what are your final thoughts, Biren? Key takeaways.
I mean, it's there's a lot. I think one of the key thing is I would say for younger generation, particularly, like we have seen life from a different lens. The innovation, the speed of innovation wasn't as much as it is right now in this Gen AI timeframe. Things were much slower back in the day, but now everything is changing. But along with this fast moving lifestyle, urban lifestyle, I would urge at least the young generation, the youth of today, particularly in the diaspora, to at least have some sense of awareness about the past and then appreciation of that past as well, and some kind of an action. So 3A basically: awareness, appreciation, and action. So learn like why things exist or why things are in such a way. Like we are always on this journey, but things don't happen without a reason. So we have been here because of the past actions of ourselves or our forefathers. So, what are the good elements of those actions? So, learn that, be aware of that, appreciate that knowledge, and finally take it forward, move it forward with some implementation, some action oriented stuff. Don't just like read for the sake of reading, or don't just tweet about it, make reels about it. Try to implement something, maybe a little bit thing, but consistently in your own life. That is what is going to be change makers. And one big thing which I remember I would like to quote here is our guru Pramukh Swami Maharaj back in year 2000 when he was speaking, doing a keynote speech at United Nations Millennium World Peace Summit. He said those very simple words like the reason for all the unrest in the world is maru etlu saru, the my way or the highway mentality. Basically, whatever I do is great. That is the root cause of all the unrest in the world. But if you just flip those words, whatever is good out there, let me make it mine. Let me embrace it. Let me implement it. And that is the real lasting purpose for and lasting solution actually for the world peace or the universal peace or whatever we want to call it. So and that's what our traditions basically teach us. So embrace, there is a lot of great things out in the world along with bad things, but try to embrace the greatness from everybody, from everywhere, from everything that you see, and try to implement a little bit of those in your own lives to make the world a better place.
Well, we hope all of our listeners today have been able to absorb all the little things that Biren shared with us today. And hopefully you found inspiration in his words and his actions, because I know I personally truly have. So, Biren, thank you so much for joining us on the Inspired series.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.